Welcome to Mojo Motivation and Mental Health, where we're having conversations that change lives. I'm Mike Orlowski. Before we start, if you're in crisis right now, if you're thinking about ending your life, if you need help immediately, please reach out, call 988 or text 988, the Suicide and Crisis Hotline. If it is an emergency, please call 911. You're not alone and you matter. Please make sure you share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. Please also like and subscribe because it can and will help others. Now, today's conversation is about the woman who helped create the lifeline I just told you about. My guest is Kristen Christy, the co-creator of the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. She was the 2018 Air Force Spouse of the Year, and we're talking because May is Mental Health Awareness Month, Armed Forces Appreciation Month, Stroke Awareness Month, and Military Spouse Appreciation Day is May 8th. It took Kristen 12 years of advocacy to make 988 a reality, 12 years of relentless pursuit, 12 years of transforming her own survival story into a tool that saves lives. Because Kristen knows suicide loss personally, she's also a stroke survivor, and instead of letting those experiences break her, she turned them into a mission, preventing others from experiencing what she went through. 988 now provides free confidential 24/7 support across the United States, Canada, and overseas US military institutions, with over 200 local crisis centers working together. It's pretty amazing stats. But here's the problem. Only 27% of Americans actually know 988 exists. We're going to change that today. Kristen, thank you for being here, and thank you for creating 988.
Thank you for the opportunity. Let's have a conversation today, shall we?
Yes, let's. I'm excited, and I really, really appreciate you being here. And I know your personal story is suicide loss and stroke, which is a lot to survive to begin with. Why don't you share a little bit about your story and background and how those experiences led you to create 988?
Yeah, would love to talk about the impetus of all of this and who I am today because of the adversities I went through growing up. I grew up in the Air Force. We lived all over the world. We were fortunate to have experiences in different cultures. And when I was 15 years old, we were living in Wiesbaden, Germany, and I was a world-class athlete, played tennis, golf, had scholarships already my junior year, had very real goals and prospects of going on the pro tennis circuit, and had a massive stroke when I was 15 years old, just before my 16th birthday. It took me a year and a half to learn to walk again after I had brain surgery. I write with my left hand now because my right hand doesn't quite work.
Wow, yeah.
And overcoming that obstacle, that's really when I first experienced depression because my body was not listening to what my brain was telling it. And I remember my dad was driving us in Germany. We were going down the Autobahn at 125 miles an hour. And I said, I want to open up the car door and jump out. And that's when my parents realized that I needed another kind of therapy besides the physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy. And the lessons I learned during that time, that one, my identity is based on who I am, not what I do. My faith played a huge part in my recovery, and the superpower of community. My friends would come over after school, Michael, and we would have crawling races. The stroke did not take away my competitiveness. It was still
I'm sure
there.
not.
I still wanted to win those crawling races, but I had to learn to crawl again before I could walk.
Yeah.
And after the stroke, I graduated from high school. My scholarships for sports were taken away, but I went to the University of Texas because we were Texas residents. And that's where I met Don Christy, and we ended up engaged and then married. In fact, he was the only person in a room that I didn't know. And I went straight up to him. I'm an uber extrovert, Michael. If from
yeah,
our
nice.
conversations, if you haven't guessed.
And I'm the opposite most of the time.
So I will try and temper my extrovertedness for you. But I went straight up to him and I said, "Hi, I'm Kristen Anderson." And he said, "Hi, I'm Don Christy. We can never get married." I'm like, what kind of pickup line is that?
Wow,
I
right?
said, "Why is that?" He said, "You would be Kristen Christy." Well, obviously, I don't take no for an answer, right?
Yeah, that's
But
funny.
he was in Air Force ROTC, so it was no
Hmm.
surprise when I married someone in the Air Force. That was the type of life I knew. And we went from Austin, Texas to Grand Forks, North Dakota, and then to Colorado Springs, Colorado, where I live now.
Hmm.
And we had two boys, and life was good. And then he was deployed in 2004, and he came back different. We
Hmm.
hear it as military spouses and family members. We get the briefings beforehand, but he did. He came back more introverted than typical,
Hmm.
more reserved, and he ended up taking his life 3 days before he pinned on Colonel. Our boys were 12 and 14 at the time,
Hmm.
and through the grief and the shame and the guilt that I was feeling, I had to rely on some lessons I learned during my stroke to help me get through those times. And the number one lesson I had learned during that time was the superpower of community.
It's
The
important.
days that I couldn't get out of bed to take my kids to school, my friends came over. They didn't take my kids to school, Michael. They got me out of bed to take my kids to school. They
That's
didn't
amazing.
enable
Yeah.
me, right? They encouraged me, and they got me out of bed to to be the mom that I needed to be for my own children. And
That's important, right? Because a lot of times they'll enable us, right? Or, oh, we'll take care of that for you. You don't have to worry about it. Meanwhile, you might stay in bed, and then there's no motivation to get back going.
yeah, yeah, it's I call it being compassionately intrusive, right? I
Yeah,
thought that they were being intrusive. They thought they
sure.
were being compassionate, which they were. But that's what it took, because I found that I wasn't just a helicopter mom after Don died to my kids. Uh, I was an Apache helicopter mom. I was a Black Hawk helicopter
Mm,
mom. I was so aggressively protective of my kids, and I
sure.
did them such a disservice. Um, and that guilt and shame that I was dealing with, it still creeps in. But I realized that it's reframing. We have choices on how we think, and it's reframing. It's not guilt, it's regret,
Hmm.
right? I did the best that I could with the tools that I had, and I have to forgive myself for what I did while trying to survive.
Of course.
But it was regret. Woulda, shoulda, coulda. And there is no place in our world for shame.
Right. Right.
If guilt is saying I did something bad, shame is saying I am bad.
And it feels heavy, right? It just
Yes,
weighs down on us.
yes, and there's no room for that. I'm not bad.
No.
I may
Right.
have done some things that I'm not proud of, but
Oh, we
again, I
all
did
have.
the best that I could with the tool. But I'm not bad. So
Right.
shame, it's like shame off me, shame
Yeah.
off you. Don't even think about that.
And you talk about helicopter parenting. So um, it's pretty common these days.
Hmm.
It's probably more common than ever. And having family that works in universities and having worked with our kids through school, we saw a lot of that. And I'm grateful that we didn't take that approach. We were pretty hands off. We told our kids, you've got to take care of yourself. You go ask for help at school. You have a problem, you try to figure it out. If it's really out of control and there's a problem, we'll get involved if need be. But at the end of the day, you need to take the lead. Um, but so many parents, their kids are in college now and they're still trying to handle it all for their kids. It's like you're not doing them any service, right? So it's important that you talk about that.
Yeah, and I will say, when I had the realization of what I was doing and I changed my ways, my boys were resentful. They were angry,
Mm, yeah,
but they were rightfully so angry
yeah.
because I had done them a disservice. And my younger son now is 30. He was
Hmm.
12 when his dad died. And he's like, Mom, there was this shift that happened. And I'm
Mm,
so glad it did finally happen, that he is more reliant on himself. He's a dad now and a husband,
hmm.
and um, he's adulting in a productive way now.
Yeah, that's good. Yes, and that shows the shift mattered. Um, And obviously you turned, and I think I was thinking about this. Didn't I read you beat Steffi Graf
I
back in the
did.
day?
Yes, Steffi Graf was 14. I was 15. So it's
Yeah.
not like she was number one already. It was
No.
when she was getting up and on the pro tennis circuit already. Had a chance to play her. We just played once. I'm sure she doesn't remember. It was in 1983. So just so your listeners, if they're trying to do the public math, that, I was 15 in 1983. I'm 39 plus shipping and handling. That's my story, and I'm sticking
Right.
to it.
Yes.
uh,
Yes.
but it was growing up. I had this mindset, and my parents instilled in my brother and me this mindset of do the best that you can,
Yeah.
again, with the tools that you have. And I had this mindset of being the best athlete I could. It energized me. And I was just
Hmm.
thinking about this last week, that I wish I had that self-discipline now, 40 some odd years
Sure.
later,
It's
because
it's sometimes
my
hard to keep.
schedule I would wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, go to tennis practice, go to junior year in high school, then go to golf practice because it was golf
Ooh.
season. I won the golf
Yeah.
championship for all the American high schools in Germany and beat the number one boy by 5 strokes. I was really excited about that
Oh wow.
competitiveness.
Yeah.
And I think I was in such a mindset, but I didn't have other responsibilities either.
Hmm.
School was my responsibility. Yes, we
Yeah.
were in the military. We had a schedule, not a real regimented schedule, but Saturday mornings we would get up, strip our beds, clean our rooms. Every morning we make our bed. Uh,
Hmm.
I don't know where that got lost, but it's choices.
It's
We all have choices.
it is, and we've got to weigh what is important at that point in time, and certain things change, priorities change. Going through some of that myself, so I understand. Now, let's shift a little bit to talk about 988, because I know you spent 12 years advocating for what became 988, right? It took some
Yep.
serious time. What was the first step? Kind of what made you think I'm going to help create a national suicide hotline?
It was in 2010. It was 2 years after Don's suicide and 2 days after our oldest son's second attempt. And I had called 911. I don't know why I didn't call the 800 number. I think I called 911 because it was imminent danger.
Sure.
And we didn't have a very good interaction with the first responders
Mm.
who came to the house. And Ryan was fine after that, but I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I get the best ideas, Michael, between 3 and 5 o'clock in the morning. I don't know about
I've been
you or
there.
your listeners, but
It
it's like,
happens occasionally, yes.
and they are big, bodacious ideas that are wonderful, but I think they're fleeting because they are so big. And we think, how
Yeah.
are we can't do this. How, it's just a little me, that imposter syndrome, or, whatever it is that goes through. I call the itty bitty shitty committee between our ears.
I
So
like
feel
that.
free to edit that out if you need to. But
No, no, no. I need to use that. I like that a
I,
lot. I hadn't heard that before.
yeah, the itty bitty shitty committee between our ears.
I love.
And I woke up 3 o'clock that morning and I thought, we have a 3-digit number for a medical emergency. Why don't we have a 3-digit number for a mental health emergency? And I became
Yeah.
obsessed with it. God put it on
Hmm.
my heart, and I started socializing the idea anywhere I could, in Colorado
Yeah.
Springs, to local folks, to my friends. And it's amazing how, as I talked about it, as I socialized the idea, people said, oh, well, I know someone who I'm going to introduce you to. And then it got to be the people who knew how to work with the FTC and the FCC and
Hmm.
Capitol Hill and the White House. All of that came
So
together.
much.
It took 12 years,
Yeah.
and we got
It's
a
the
lot of
government.
no's. It is.
Yeah.
And we got a lot of no's. No, that's too
Yeah.
difficult to do. No. Well, that's when the reframing on resilience, one of the tools, a resilience tool is reframing. Like, I
Hmm.
have to take the kids to soccer practice, or I get to take the kids to soccer practice. Do you
Right.
hear the difference? It's the same
There's a
sentence,
difference.
but there's one word change. Have to is an obligation, get to is a privilege.
True story. Yes.
So no, and I'm writing this in my book that'll come out next year. No is next opportunity.
I like
It's
that.
just an acronym for next opportunity. Now, when it comes to your body, no means no. It's a complete sentence. But in
Sure.
other regards, you didn't get the job you wanted. There's something better out there for you. What's your
Yeah.
next
Next
opportunity?
opportunity. Yep.
Right? That
I like that.
relationship didn't work out for you. There's someone better out there for you. What's your next opportunity?
Yeah.
Maybe your next opportunity is reflecting inside and finding out who you really want to be before that your forever person comes into your life. That's what I found before I remarried. Is
Mm.
I had to reflect on who I wanted to be as a person, and then it was amazing how my husband Sean, um, we've been married 12 years now, but how he came into my life after I had to work on myself. But
Sure.
think of no as the next opportunity.
Yeah. No, that's and it's a great reframe. I mean, it's sad that I hadn't heard it that way before. I've heard no is the next step to yes and all that, but next opportunity is a easy way to remember it. So you heard no a lot on the way to making this happen, which is no surprise with the way the government works. How did you get it from no to maybe to yes?
It was teamwork. That's why I say I'm a co-creator of 988, because it took a team to get it across the finish line. Uh, our Senator Cory Gardner, here in Colorado, was a
Hmm.
champion for it to help get it across the finish line. And there were things that I didn't know how to do, that I wasn't real
Sure.
sure. I know Mental Health America wanted a certain number. I think it was 555, which is when you watch TV or watch movies and they talk about a telephone number, it always 555 and
Mm,
then the last four numbers.
right.
I really was hoping for a nine to kind of piggyback off of 911.
Yeah. Yeah.
911's been around since I think 67 or 68.
Long
And
time. Yeah.
the marketing really helped with 911 because they started teaching it in elementary schools. You hear about
Hmm.
5 6-year-olds calling 911 when mommy won't wake up from a nap on the couch and ends up she's in a diabetic coma or something like
Right.
that. Uh,
Yeah.
but I was also thinking, I had the idea for the 3-digit number, but it was people a lot smarter and organizations a lot smarter than I was that came up with 988.
Hmm.
It's an area code, a small area code, so they had to work through that. So it was
Yeah.
signed as an executive order in 2020. In October of
Hmm.
2021, everyone who has a cell phone got a text message from their carrier stating that for a local number, you have to start dialing 10 digits. Because before
Mm.
that,
I remember that.
if someone had the 719 area code like I do, I would just have to dial the last 7 digits, not the entire 10 digits.
Right. I remember those days.
Yeah. Changes going on, but as of the end of February, last I heard, they've answered 17 million calls from July 16th of 2022 when it was enacted to the end of February. And to me, that's bittersweet. It's bitter that
Yes.
we have to answer 17 million calls,
Hmm.
but it's sweet that we get to answer 17 million calls.
Absolutely. And with only, my concern is with only 27% of people knowing about it, how many calls should it be? It's not a
Yeah.
good number to think that it could be double, triple, quadruple that number, right? But it might
Right.
need to be.
Yeah.
But let's talk about 988 and what it is and help people understand a little bit more about what it stands for, when to use it, and all that important information.
Yeah. It's 988, as you said in the intro, is available in the US, the US territory. Canada has adopted it. and it's available from overseas military bases, from government landlines. You can dial 988. When you dial or text, my 30-year-old would much rather text than
Of course.
call, right?
My kids too. Yeah.
And so texting, they also have a chat line. It's 988chat.org,
Okay.
I believe, or 988chatline.org.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say, I do not work for 988,
Sure.
but I am very invested in 988 and getting the information out there for it. It is anonymous. They will, get to 911 if needed, with the caller's permission for imminent danger. But when you call or text to it, you will receive some prompts. So dial 1 if you're a veteran or military or family member, and that reaches the Veteran Crisis Line that has people, professionals who have a cultural understanding of the veteran and military lifestyle. It's important, the cultural understanding. 2 for Spanish speakers, and 4 in Washington State only right now for the indigenous community. Again, cultural understanding for the indigenous community. They have a high rate of ideation and attempts in that community as well. But it's there for you. So it's there for you when you're in crisis. But Michael, I've been in crisis. I haven't had to call it for myself. But when we're in crisis, that's the least likely time we're going to ask for help. We
very
are
true.
so shrouded in this darkness of depression, PTS, anxiety, whatever, loneliness, hopelessness, you name it. And a lot of times we don't want to be a burden.
Correct. That was me.
And before suicide hit our family, I felt like a lot of people not really understanding that it was a selfish act. But I've come to understand that so many feel like they're a burden and they don't want to be a burden to their family, to their community, to their coworker, whatever that looks like. But it's up to us who are in a good place, who are around these people, to notice, to be a noticer. That, hey, Kathy is usually a Tigger at work, and she's been an Eeyore for an awfully long time. We all have bad days.
Noticing, yes.
Right, and noticing that. And being comfortable saying, hey, I've noticed you haven't been yourself lately, because you're seeing them as a human being. That's what we all want to be seen and heard.
Right. Yes, very much so.
And when you mention that, you're seeing them.
Right.
And then you can ask them, do you mind telling me what's going on? Or what's going on? And then you shut your mouth.
Listen. Yeah.
Another acronym is WAIT. Why am I talking?
That's good. Yeah. I like to talk. I have to practice that.
Me too. I'm a professional speaker. I really have to.
Right.
And as human beings, we want to fix things. We want to make things better.
Yes.
Sometimes to make things better, they just need someone to listen to them, not to try and fix
it.
Just to listen.
Right. And going back to the 988 conversation, from my experience, right, it was something I should have done. So it was late 2019, several years prior, because like you said, by the time I got to where I was ready to end my life, it was too late to even think rationally to call 988. It didn't even cross my mind at the time. I knew about 988. I take it back because it wasn't live yet.
No. But we have the 800 number, and I will say that 800 is still active. 800-273-TALK.
Okay. Yes. Or even 911, right? I didn't even think to call 911.
Yeah.
At the time. But at the same time, there was no rational thought. I was past that. I was a burden. I was just mentally just drained. And the key to calling 988 is I'm feeling down. I'm struggling. I'm frustrated. I don't want to get to that point. And same thing with, you just mentioned we're having these conversations. Having a conversation and talking to someone about, hey, how are you doing today? And listening. It's actually not heavy as most people would think. I've learned from having these conversations is it's enlightening, it's energizing, and it's therapeutic for me as well. It takes a weight off.
Another acronym I'm going to give you.
Today's
As a
acronym day.
military spouse, I live in acronyms, right?
Yeah.
Is HOPE.
Mm-hmm.
HOPE stands for hold on, pain eases. That E
Mm-hmm.
doesn't stand for end, right? It eases, it ebbs and flows.
Sure.
Hold on to resources, to friends, to family, to faith. There are so many things to hold on to, but it also stands for help one person every day.
Yes.
When you need to get outside of your own circumstances, right? To help someone else, not knowing what their pain is, but you've noticed that they are not themselves. They're going through something.
Mm-hmm.
It's weighing on them, and to walk alongside of them and say, hey, it looks pretty heavy. Can I help carry the load?
One thing I started doing, I think you posted this the other day actually, and it triggered me to do more. Well, a lot of times I'll message people on LinkedIn, but I think you said text 1 or 2 people every day. And so I've just started scrolling through my contacts and I just pick 2 people and I text them every day. Just say, how are you doing today? I haven't talked to you in a while. Sometimes I get a response. Sometimes I don't. I'm not offended if I don't. But
Good.
that little difference, it took me 30 seconds, could be all the impact in the world, right? It could have all the meaning in the world. If more of us did that and just text 2 people in our contacts, and I've probably got 1,000 in there from my days in working in logistics, but it's like, we don't know what that will lead to, but it might help someone today.
And Michael, how did it make you feel sending it?
Oh, it felt great. I don't know why I didn't do it sooner.
Well, and how did it make you feel when you received a response?
Well, even better, right? Because there's an interaction there, right? Because communication, community, those things matter, albeit in today's day of social media and texting, which was a text, but we don't feel the community as well. With social media, we don't have the level of relationships that we used to. So having conversations, whether it be text or phone, ideally phone, right? You get more of that feeling of community. You can really feel it. And, I pick up the phone and talk to a lot of people every day in the work that I do. But at the same time, and I've made that a part of my conversation, but at the same time, we need more of that.
Yes. And I think COVID made isolation acceptable, and we still haven't gotten out of that.
Right.
And that's tough to deal with. I personally, when people reach out to me, I would much rather do a Zoom or a Teams meeting. So there's eyeball to eyeball contact. But even if it's a phone call, next time you make a phone call, and you can try this on your spouse or a friend, I want you to talk without having a smile on your face, and then talk with a smile on your face.
They can tell.
You can tell the difference on a phone call without seeing the person.
You can feel it. Yes. It's interesting how that works, because as a human, we don't think about that.
Right. And I do recommend, I don't think it was on the post, but I do recommend putting your name at the end of the text message, just in case your contact information isn't in their phone.
Yep. I actually did that a couple times.
Good. And sometimes I've had people, so when I speak and do workshops and all, that's one of the exercises we do. We all pull out our phone, and either we go to a contact that has been on our mind that we haven't reached out to for whatever reason. We just stop. This is intentional time to reach out to that person. Or we scroll through and do the invisible dart in our contacts, and we reach out to that person. But I've had people tell me that they don't have time to start a conversation with someone.
Right.
And so that's when you don't ask questions. You make a statement like, I was thinking of you today. Have a great day. Or have a good day.
Exactly.
Or send them a meme. It's
just,
it's reaching out to them. And for those who have lost someone, I recommend not just reaching out on a milestone like the anniversary of the loss or a birthday or something like that. Put it in your calendar to say, hey, I'm going to reach out to Michael on this day. Kind of like what you did with your contacts.
Exactly.
I've contacted my plumber because my plumber is in my contacts in my phone. And I said, "Hey, Steve,
Yeah, good idea.
thinking of you
Good
today.
idea.
I hope you have a great day." And he's like, I think you have the wrong Steve. And I'm like, "No, you're my plumber, and I
Yeah.
appreciate everything you do." So I don't have to do it.
Yeah, they don't expect that.
They don't. And they appreciate it. And a lot of times they'll, it'll make their day. Or if you do ask the question, ask a question like, "What made you smile yesterday?"
Oh, I like that.
Because some days we have to think about what made us smile. We really have
Yeah,
to
we do.
think on what made us smile. And you don't want them to say, if you say, "What made you smile today?" they're probably going to say, "Well, your text message made me smile." It's not about us. It's about
Right.
helping them reframe that, one, someone is thinking of them, and two, think about what made you smile yesterday. Maybe it was a funny joke someone said, or they were scrolling and saw a funny meme, or watched a funny show, or something like that. But it gets
Right.
them in the thought process of, okay, what made me smile yesterday?
Yes, you were named Air Force Spouse of the Year in 2018, which is a huge honor. Um, what does that title represent? How does being a military spouse connect to your suicide prevention work? And then let's talk about the risk of suicide in the military community, because it's huge.
Yeah, it is. I love the military. I mentioned I grew up in the Air Force. My first husband was Air Force. My new groom, Sean, we met on Match.com. It works.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
he was Navy Reserve when I met him. And I'm a recruiter because I got him to cross over to the Air Force. It was more in line with his civilian job too. So in the reserve, he's a traditional reservist. He has a civilian job as a defense contractor, and then 1 month a year, or one weekend a month, and 15 days out of the year, he works in uniform as a military member. And I I was so honored to be nominated in 2018, and then to be chosen as the overall branch winner, representing 250,000 military spouses, Air Force spouses. There are over 1 million
Mm-hmm.
military spouses. Was such an honor and humbling.
Mm-hmm.
And my platform was and still is suicide prevention because
Mm-hmm.
of lived experience. And we were seeing the uptick in military suicides and veteran suicides.
Mm-hmm.
The veteran suicide issue, my thought was I can help the veteran suicide issue by helping in the military space. Because why are they veterans?
Mm-hmm.
Because they raised their right hand to take the oath, and they were military
Right.
members. And if we can help our military members and their families be have the tools to help them overcome challenges, whatever challenges that is. There are a number of challenges in the military community,
Mm-hmm.
moving, you name it.
Right.
Then hopefully once they retire or are separated, and become veterans, then hopefully they can rely on those tools, just like I did with the lessons I learned from my stroke, and
Mm-hmm.
how I use that to overcome some of those tests in life later on. And I've been fortunate enough to give over 350 presentations to military bases worldwide, and try and be a hope dealer. And I
Mm-hmm.
talk about the aftermath, Michael. A lot of times we don't talk about the aftermath of suicide. I've talked about my younger
Sure.
son a lot, and how my older son's second attempt really helped bring about the idea of a 3-digit lifeline number. But my oldest son's been
Mm-hmm.
missing for over 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so Dawn's choice has everlasting effects on our family and our community. And so I
Yeah.
talk about that, but I talk about the hope. I have hope that Ryan is out there somewhere, and as our story gets out there, maybe he listens to this podcast, and I want to encourage Ryan that we love him, and we would love to get a phone call from him to make sure he's okay.
Hmm.
But the hope is a community and the resources that are out there. And we are not made to do life alone. And hope is not
No.
canceled, but it's not just snippets, right? I live it, you live it. Because of our lived
Yeah.
experience, there's so many people out there willing to help.
Absolutely.
And it's not necessarily that we just have to notice. We have to be out there and be in that community. And I love, like when you and I met, our communities collided. And it's not about
Yes,
me
they
helping
did.
you or you helping me, but maybe someone in my community can help someone in your community, right?
Exactly.
And that's
Yeah,
important. So as we come
it is
together
important.
to get to
We.
that destination, our journeys are different. Getting to the destination
Hmm.
of really preserving life, right?
Hmm.
We're
Yeah.
we're life advocates. We want
Hmm.
people to find their purpose and their sense of belonging and to feel protected,
Yeah.
respected, and connected. And that
It's a
takes,
yeah. It's a combined reach.
yes,
You know.
yes. Yeah.
When the forces collide, and there have been a number of people I've met this year, we're reaching more people because we're coming together and bringing and expanding our community, which is so important. And the military community is uniquely at risk, right? Because of deployment, relocations, as you mentioned, separation, trauma, injuries. Veterans have such a high suicide rate, and I wear a lot of Till Valhalla Project shirts, and that probably got like 7 of them. It's a big cause that I've supported, and I mean I love the shirt and the message. At the same time, it's important to bring more awareness. And what I've found is wearing the shirts starts conversations. People
Mhm.
say, "Oh, I love your shirt." And I'll talk about how important it is, or we can ask it. Yes, and usually it's a veteran. A lot of time, thank you for your service, and we'll talk a little bit. And it's just bringing greater awareness and growing the community in the military space. What's being done? How does 988 help the military? What's next?
I think the military and the VA, the Veterans Administration,
Mm-hmm.
they're striving. They're doing the best that they can.
Mm-hmm.
Funding is an issue, manpower is an issue with that. 988, because it's connected to the Veteran Crisis Line, right? We have to remember one number, 988, and you get the
Yeah.
prompts and you dial one.
Mm-hmm.
And it's reaching that person who has the cultural understanding of being a veteran being a veteran, or for the military to dial 988. It's one number. You dial one after you're connected to 988 and it reaches the Veteran Crisis Line,
Yeah.
which is answered by trained professionals who have that cultural understanding of being in the military, being a veteran, being a family member, which is important. It's that understanding, that sense of understanding that I'm talking to someone who understands what I'm going through, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
PTS or anxiety or whatever that looks like. And to have the one number to remember and then the connection to the Veteran Crisis Line, I think is important. I would love dial 5 for the teens. There is a teen line, and I'll get you that link for the teen line to
Okay.
put in the
Great.
podcast. There's a teen line that's answered by teens that are
Mm-hmm.
trained to answer that phone
Mm-hmm.
call. There's so many cultures, if you will, or societies that I think could use the cultural understanding of that. But anyone can call 988.
Yes.
Anyone can call 988. If you're a veteran or military and you don't want to talk to someone at the Veteran Crisis Line, you can dial 988. You don't have to
Yeah.
fit into Spanish speakers or the indigenous community in Washington or the veteran community. It's open to anyone and everyone to call.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this is what I love. Michael, you can call and say, I'm calling for a friend. My friend is in crisis. I don't know how to help them. Can you give me some tools to be able to do
It's
that?
confidential. Yes, and
It
it's
is.
it's important. And those out the people out there, you are important. It's important to understand that you're needed and valued, and
Yes.
there's an opportunity for you to get help confidentially.
Yep. It, I as I travel and speak and do workshops, I've been fortunate enough that people come and they feel confident and secure in telling me about their story and how life has changed for them. For my youngest son, Ben, who was 12 when his dad died, on his 20th birthday, he called and left a voicemail. It was at 1:30 in the morning. My phone was off. It was 2015. And he left a voicemail the night he attempted. And it's such a powerful voicemail. This young man just sobbing, I miss my dad. I can't live without my dad. 10 years later, he has a master's degree in aerospace engineering, working for the government in California, is married to a lovely woman. My grandson turns 1 in April, and we just found out he's going to be a big brother in October. So
exciting
Ben
news
is
for sure.
living his best life. He is living his best life. And it took time and community. It was his frat brothers who got him the help that he needed. And yes, he was on a 72-hour hold. And yes, when he filled out the paperwork for his clearance to work for the government, he was very honest, and it took a little while to get his clearance, but it happened, and he's living his best life. And it takes time.
That's a good story, because a lot of people don't understand what happens after. They're afraid of what happens after. Like, you can recover, you can thrive, life can look like a normal, successful life. You just have to get through this tough time, and there are people to help you.
Yes. And there are lessons to be learned. I get reminded every day that there is a silver lining. So when I had my stroke, I had brain surgery. They had to shave my head. When my hair started growing back, this was white. This was a white spot as my hair was growing back. And at 16, I was too young to be gray, so I covered it.
Yeah,
But
I
as it
understand.
grew out, it's my silver lining, right? It's there.
There you go.
And it's the lessons I learned to realize the silver lining. I get the opportunity to tutor other people through their life lessons if they allow me to. But
Absolutely.
don't hold those lessons that you've learned to yourself. They're supposed to be shared.
They are. And I know they're heavy when you hold them.
Yes, yes. When you can share, Michael, we are so good about laughing with one another, right?
You're right.
We are so good at crying by ourselves.
Absolutely. No, we don't want anybody to see that.
Right.
Yeah.
Because people probably feel uncomfortable. But, when we can cry together, there is power in that.
Yes.
That release for everyone involved. I will say I did not really talk about our story for a number of years because of the shame and guilt. And I was so afraid that if I splayed open my heart with a story, that people would throw salt in it. And I will admit, I had very few people throw salt in it. And I said no to them. I said, next opportunity. And I brought people into my world, right, that support me, that feel comfortable enough to open up and be a little bit vulnerable, and to share resilience tools. So we have a choice to be resilient or resentful. I'd much rather be resilient.
Being resentful is, I used to be the resentful person, right? And you get stuck in the past. It drags you down. It holds you back. And now I'm to the point where, I think I mentioned when we talked, I choose to be happy every day. And yesterday was a tough one. I probably wasn't my normal self yesterday, but last night I told myself, tomorrow's going to be different. You're going to choose to be happy. That's what you do every day. But that alone changed so many days of my life, and it turned my life around, because at the end of the day, I left that behind me. If I have a bad moment, I get mad at somebody driving down the road almost all the time. I'm mad and it's over. Like, okay, move on. You know what I mean? It's behind me, because I can't let that drag behind me, because it becomes like a lead weight holding you back. So we have to let it go.
Anchor.
An anchor. That was the word I was looking for. Yeah.
There's an exercise in that as well. I did this with my kids driving down the road and, get cut off or something like that. And I would say, oh, maybe they're going to the hospital because his wife is having their baby. How
Yeah.
can you
Reframe. Yeah.
reframing what that person's going through? And then I'm not so angry. I have some empathy in that. But I've also
Hmm.
learned hurt people hurt people,
Yes.
and healed
Yes.
people heal people.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's a
I'd
true
much rather
story.
be a healed person to help heal people. But next time
Yeah.
you're at a restaurant and you get crappy service, there's a reason that server is giving you crappy service, because they're probably going through
Right.
some crap, you know,
Yes.
in in
Yeah.
their life.
I usually give them an extra tip.
Yeah.
Um, I used to not, but now I'm like, they're struggling, they're having a bad day, or I can tell sometimes, right? Like there's no
Yeah.
help. I'm like, I'm
Yep.
gonna help them out a little bit. And
Yep.
like you, I waited a number of years to tell my story, 6 years, because I felt the same thing. I was afraid that people would throw shade, and only a couple really have, not directly to me. And at the end of the day, I really don't care, because
Yep.
I tell my wife this all the time. The message is more important than the shade or the frustration that someone else might be feeling.
Yep.
And you mentioned not knowing what others are going through. So one of the Till and Vala shirts that I wear is "Be kind," and on the back it says something to the effect of "You don't know what others are going through today." And that's probably the shirt that gets the most comments and compliments, because we just don't know, because it's heavy and we're carrying it internally ourselves and we're not sharing that with others. So it pays to give people some grace.
Yep. Absolutely. So I have 50 different business cards. They all have
Mm-hmm.
the same thing on the back of them, but the front I designed on Canva, and they're all a positive saying. And
Mm-hmm.
a number of them are things like, a kind word is never wasted,
Mm-hmm.
or
Yeah.
the best gift you can give is kindness. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't, it really doesn't cost us anything
No.
to see someone walking down the street, and you really, what they're wearing is really popping out at you, and mention something about it, because you don't know what they're going through. One, you're seeing them as a human being, and I also tell people, when people wear a name tag, in our
Mm-hmm.
military, they all have their last name.
Yep.
Use their name.
Right.
They have a name tag on for a reason. And if you don't know how to pronounce it, ask them how to pronounce it. Or you
Yes. That's
try
the
and
easiest
say,
way to start the conversation.
oh my gosh. I
Unless it's
love,
Smith, right?
yes,
Yeah.
yes. I love conversation starters. So I
Yeah.
have a little shrimp fork earring and a little
Mm.
teaspoon earring that I wear all the time. I made them out of my grandmother's silver service. And my
Mm.
husband, bless his
Wow.
heart, he's like, Kristen, I've bought you some really nice earrings, and you wear these all the time, even for formal events.
Yeah.
And he said, why do you wear those? And I said, because they're a conversation piece. Now he
Yep.
stopped and he looked and he goes, I've never known you to need an excuse to start a conversation. And I said, it's not
True.
for me to start a conversation, it's for someone else to feel comfortable
Yeah.
enough to say, I noticed your earrings. And that
Exactly. It's
starts the
inviting.
conversation. Yes.
Because a lot
And
of people
one thing,
don't know what to say.
right. How do you enter a conversation? Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And this gives them an opportunity, or wearing funky glasses, or, and sometimes it's, I look for someone who's kind of off by themselves. And even if
Mm-hmm.
they're on their phone, I will go stand at the cocktail table that they're standing at. And maybe they have an important text message. And I said, may I interrupt you? And sometimes they say, no, I've got to get this out. And it's
Yeah.
fine. But I've asked the
Sure.
question.
Right.
But my mother taught us growing up that when you meet someone for the first time, assume that they're having the worst day of their life.
That's a
So
good
think about
approach.
that. When you
Yeah.
meet, you're going to approach them with more kindness, more empathy, more
Mm-hmm.
compassion. And I've heard this recently over and over and over, and I'm probably going to butcher it. I don't know the exact phrasing, but when people are gauging you for the first time, they're going to gauge if you're warm and trustworthy.
Mm-hmm.
And warm is number one. Is this a warm person? And then the trust comes later.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So if you approach them by thinking they're having the worst day of their life, you're going to be warm.
Yes.
And they can let their guard down. So
Absolutely. As we're getting close to wrapping up, one of the things I want to make sure we hit on is, you talk about in your speeches, transforming your journey of survival, recovery, and rebounding into a tool for others. There's a lot of folks out there that are on the other side or going through it now. What does that transformation process look like? What does it feel like? How do you turn pain into purpose?
it takes time. Everyone's different in their processing of time, and depending on what their other responsibilities going through life and all that. And for me, there's real healing for me to help other people and to tell our story. I've been fortunate enough to be able to get some global advocacy in. But that's not for everyone, and it's okay. If you share your story with one person, every time I get on stage or in front of a room, I pray that my message reaches one person, because it's one person, one family, one community that can help. But I didn't do it alone. I had those trusted sources, those friends that I could laugh with and cry with. And I will say I've never been an introvert, which is just converting my energy from within, right? I convert my energy from external sources. But for both, it's finding those trusted people, those cheerleaders who, when you share good news with them, they cheer for you just as if it were happening to them. But then you can call them when things aren't so good. And it's really being intentional and reflecting on, okay, these are the lessons I learned, and they're hard to reflect on. And then how can I use this going forward?
Absolutely. And if someone's listening now, they're in a crisis, they're struggling, they may be having suicidal thoughts, they're not sure, they want to keep living, they're just struggling. What would you say to them? What do they need to hear?
Yeah. We hear the cliche, you matter, you belong, find where you belong, find that person, call 988. We hear it in the military, hope is not a strategy, but hope can be a stopgap. It's reach out to one person. If that person doesn't answer, like I didn't answer my son's call because my phone was off at 1:30 in the morning. His fraternity brothers came alongside. But for those of us in a good place, I'm hoping that we notice and we aren't afraid to reach out. We talk about ACE, another acronym, Ask, Care, Escort in the military. Ask the question, are you thinking of suicide? Are you thinking of hurting yourself? Care for them. And I don't think we ask the question because what the heck are we going to do if they say, yes, I am? Well, just be there. And call a mutual friend to say, hey, we need you. I can't do this alone. We need you to come alongside, and call 988 for that friend, or call the services that you have available in your community. Find out what those resources are. I want to encourage your listeners today to find 3 resources, whether that's mental health resources or resources for the unhoused or whatever. I want you to find 3 resources. That's my challenge to your listeners. Find 3 resources today. Put them in your phone. They may not be for you.
That's important.
But they may be for someone in your community. And
you never know when you're going to need it.
Right. And it doesn't take grandiose events. It's the little things. It's sharing a smile. It's saying hi. It's using someone's name. Share all that. But if someone is going through crisis right now, I do recommend calling 988. It's there for you. They're waiting for the phone call. And don't be discouraged if they don't answer right away. Keep calling. It's manpower issues.
Sure.
They're there to help.
And remember to have those conversations and just talk to someone. As we talked about earlier, it is enlightening. It is energizing. It provides hope having a conversation with someone because it takes that weight off, right? And lightens the mood, brings you down a level. Sometimes that's all it takes. Let's get you down a level and then take the next step.
Yeah, it's regulating. It's part of regulating ourselves, but we need help doing that sometimes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you've dedicated 12 years to suicide prevention. You've seen people choose life because of your message. What's possible when we all commit to this? We're probably never going to get to zero, but what does the world look like when we get closer and close to zero? Like, we got to get closer. We're not there yet.
Absolutely. And what do we have to lose by sharing a kind word or a smile or approaching someone, assuming they're having the worst day of their life?
Right.
We have nothing to lose by
Nothing.
trying to spread kindness and hope.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Again, it's choices.
Yes.
And we can affect other people's choices, but ultimately it's their choice. And we want them to choose life and to choose to be around in a sense of belonging, because they are productive members of society that maybe just have to take a break.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. So when we can be the emotional support human for others, it's amazing what we can do coming together as a society.
Great things can happen.
Yes.
And same thing, the podcast, I don't care if it gets only one view. My goal is to get one view, to make one difference, to make one impact. What can we do to help one person? And as we were talking, I happened to see out of the corner of my eye a text. Somebody responded from one of my texts last week. And I thought, I hope that's still a number that they have. And I'm like, okay, let me check in on that here in a little bit. You just don't know what they're going through when you send that text, but be intentional and send that text.
Yep. And I've texted numbers where it's someone else's number, and I've started a conversation with that person.
Yeah, you never know where that might lead. You might find a new friend or help someone.
It was meant to be.
Yes.
I call those gotcha moments. GODCHA. Gotcha moments.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Right. And you hear about them on the news every now and then where it just happenstance people cross paths, and it makes a difference. It's a miracle, or it saves a life. You don't ever know. You might as well do. You might as well try. Now, how do people reach you? How do they learn more about you and your speaking engagements and what you do?
My website is Kristen Christy Cares. It's Kristen with a K and an E, CH and a Y, cares.com. I'm on LinkedIn, Kristen Christy. There aren't many Kristen Christies. I will say there are a few, but I'm pretty out there. You can Google me as well. I would love to connect. If any of your listeners have questions or want to share their story, I've got a couple calls today with people that found me on Instagram and reached out with a DM, and we were able to get on a phone call and chat through some stuff. That sets my soul on fire when I can connect with other people. It helps me as much as I hope it helps them as well.
It makes our day better too, whether people realize it or not. When we connect with others, it helps us too. I did the 80-some conversations I've had this year have been energizing for me, enlightening, and therapeutic. And so, let's do more of that. And I can testify to Kristen is amazing.
It's the same for people who talk to you, Michael. I feel energized and connected, and your podcast is helping more than one person. It's helping you.
Thank you.
Me, and then whoever's out there listening.
And that's what matters, is who can we reach? The more we can reach, the better. And Kristen, thank you. I really appreciate you joining today. You've helped save lives today just by being here and sharing your story, and continuing to share your story is going to save more lives. Everyone out there listening, please write it down, memorize it, share it with someone who needs it. That's it. It's 3 numbers, 988. Call or text. If you're in a crisis or someone you love is in a crisis, make sure you get them engaged with 988. Reach out, have a conversation. If you're in the military, it still applies. You can access it even at military bases overseas. There's help out there. We know that you're needed in this world, and there's opportunity for you to get that help. Right now, share that number. Only 27% of Americans know 988 exists. We're going to change that. Please make sure you're sharing this episode as well. Make sure that it gets in front of other folks so that they can see and be aware of the fact that they're needed in this world also. You matter. Your life matters. And there are people waiting to help right now. I'm Mike Orlowski. This is Mojo Motivation and Mental Health. Choose happiness. Choose to ask for help. Choose to be extraordinary and get your mojo back. Thank you.